This is the Behind the Line podcast, coming to you from the wacky left coast capital of Seattle. News from the Pacific Northwest, the left coast, the U.S., and the world that matters. The stories the MSM won't talk about. Deciphering the truth through all the lies. For more, visit BehindTheLinePodcast.com.
So I want to talk about this assassination attempt over the weekend against former President Trump at the rally that he was at. I guess I just want to go over what we know at this point and some of the questions that we should be asking about this situation. When it comes to the pre-planning stage of this whole thing, which the Secret Service was in charge of, why was a barn with an elevated position less than 200 meters from the rally not closed off or being watched? Secret Service says they flagged this building as a security concern but left it. Why? Local law enforcement says Secret Service was in charge of security outside the venue. Why do we only see 2 Secret Service snipers sitting together at this event? Local law enforcement says local law enforcement deployed 4 sniper teams and 4 quick reaction teams. So that's 8 local law enforcement special operations teams, and then whatever Secret Service agents were on the ground, and at least 2 Secret Service snipers who were sitting together in the same position. How did all these people miss this? Why was there no Secret Service agents on stage with Trump? At most events with a president or political figure, there is at least one agent on stage within a few feet of the protected person. And yet, these guys were all off stage, which, I think they reacted fairly quickly, but how much faster would it have been had they been up on stage? Also, why is it that he wasn't rushed off stage when this shooting occurred? Instead, they all piled around him and held him in place. That is not something you generally see if Secret Service has to intercede and remove a protected party from a venue. They don't stay in place. They immediately grab that person and go. Seems odd to me. I don't know. It's also being reported that bystanders pointed out a man with a gun on the roof of the building. They also said they had seen him walking through the area with a rifle, and they said police basically ignored them. This was 3 to 4 minutes before the shooting occurred. Now, I also saw a local news report, and I've only seen this on one channel, but it was a local news channel for that area where this event took place. They said that a local police officer, after they were told by the bystanders there was a subject on the roof with a gun, did go onto the roof to confront the suspect. And when he got up on the roof, the suspect pointed his rifle at the officer, and the officer retreated. In other words, the officer ran away. And then shortly after that, shots were fired by the suspect. So, did the officer radio this in? Did he ask for backup? Why didn't he shoot the suspect with the rifle? Here, we have another Uvalde type of situation here. I mean, this needs to be investigated and asked. And this was a local police officer, not a federal agent. So, and was he a patrol officer? Was he one of these special operations people? What, So many questions. A very troubling story that's also being reported that has not been verified is someone identifying himself as Jonathan Willis, the Secret Service sniper who claims he had the suspect in his sights for 3 minutes, but his supervisor would not allow him to shoot. In his post, he said the head of the Secret Service would not give him the okay. Personally, I think it's unlikely that a sniper team would be asking the head of the Secret Service or waiting for a response from her to take a shot. And I'm not even sure they would have to wait for a supervisor on the ground to give them permission to take a shot. Snipers have to react quickly and independently, but if there's any truth to this story, someone has some explaining to do. There's also a video circulating that I watched yesterday of a female in the audience behind Trump to his left holding a sign, and this is in the grandstands behind Trump, down in the first or second row, holding a sign for Biden. And just before the shooting, she can be seen looking towards the barn where the shots would come from, and she looked over there several times like she's waiting for something to happen. And then when shots are fired, she just stands there and smiles and doesn't even move. And then she drops down for a second and then jumps back up holding her phone, videotaping Trump. Her behavior is very suspicious. In the aftermath of this thing, CNN reported that Secret Service interrupts Trump's rally. They also ran a headline that he fell during his speech. Other reporters who had it live said they heard popping sounds, refusing to call them gunshots. And on their own live feed, you could clearly hear law enforcement say, "Shoot her down," but they would not acknowledge it was a shooting. Why is the media so sketchy? Why do we tolerate this crap from these liberal news organizations? You know, we see it time and time again where something happens and they immediately report on, whatever BS information is out there. Half the time these stories end up getting turned around later, when the truth comes out. Here they have a live feed. We're all watching it, and you can clearly hear the gunshots, okay? Anybody that knows gunshots knows that's what that is. Popping sounds. What do they think it is? Okay, but then you clearly hear law enforcement say, "Shoot her down." What do you suppose that means, you brainiac news reporters? You don't want to report the truth when it's right in front of your face, but you'll report on lies as the truth all the time. It's baffling. The stupidity of these people reporting is baffling. The shooter, Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, the usual story, bullied in high school, loner. Early reports said he was a member of Antifa, but I haven't seen much about that since. More than likely he is. Registered as a Republican voter, but made small donations to Democrats. He belonged to a local shooting club, had no formal or military training beyond that. Looks like the typical liberal loony, with the enlarged, misshapen head, the receding hairline or thin hair, just the general look of deranged on his face. Somehow, this kid outsmarted the elite Secret Service and multiple law enforcement special operations teams. Again, somebody has some explaining to do. And then let's talk about the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly A. Cheadle. Kimberly Cheadle is the 27th director of the U.S. Secret Service, sworn into office September 17th, 2022, a Biden appointee. She is responsible for successfully executing the agency's integrated mission of protection and investigations by leading a diverse workforce composed of more than 7,800 special agents, uniformed division officers, technical law enforcement officers, administrative, professional, and technical personnel. One of her main goals when she was appointed to this office was to have 30% women in the office as field agents. or in the workforce total of the Secret Service, 30%, and have a more diverse workforce. So, in other words, less whites. You saw, if you've seen the video of the shooting, how the women field agents acted during and after the shooting. One decided to duck down away from Trump. And when they got him over to the truck, they all seemed to be like Keystone cops, didn't know what to do, couldn't holster their guns, more concerned about putting on their sunglasses, dancing around, jumping around, just a general appearance of not knowing what to do next. At least that's my observation. Prior to her appointment, Ms. Cheadle served as Senior Director in Global Security at Pepsi Company, where she was responsible for directing and implementing security protocols for the company's facilities in North America. Her role at PepsiCo involved developing risk management assessment and risk mitigation strategies. Before joining PepsiCo, she served with distinction for 27 years in the U.S. Secret Service, most recently as Assistant Director of the Office of Protective Operations. In this position, Ms. Cheadle managed a $133.5 million budget and collaborated with 10 operational divisions and the Technical Security Division to research, develop, and deploy technologies that reduce risk to protectees, protected facilities, and protected events. Apparently, she didn't utilize any of those technologies at this event. Prior to serving as Assistant Director, Ms. Cheadle served as a Special Agent in charge of the Atlanta Field Office, providing oversight for all mission-related investigations, protective intelligence, and protective visits in the state of Georgia. Ms. Cheadle was appointed to the Senior Executive Service in February 2016 as a Special Agent in charge of the James J. Rowley Training Center. There, she directed and coordinated all aspects of training and career development for the organization, later serving as the Deputy Assistant Director for the Office of Training. Prior to her SES appointment, Ms. Cheadle was the Special Agent in charge, Office of Strategic Planning and Policy, where she developed and deployed an innovative web-based communication platform designed to promote open and transparent communication within the organization. I don't see anything on her little resume about her field experience. Sounds to me like she was always in charge of something or in some kind of training position or administrative type of position. So, did she actually work in the field? Does she have any actual field experience? Did she ever go out and actually do the real job and not just come up with plans and ideas and web-based communication platforms? This is typical of the government at any level of the government. The people in charge haven't really done the job. They've never done the work. They don't know what they're in charge of or what the actual jobs entail. And yet, somehow, these people end up being management. And this is the result. She needs to be fired. And a lot of questions need to be asked of the law enforcement that was on the ground, federal and local, why this happened. And I certainly hope that any future rallies are not held outdoors. And Trump should consider getting his own security team together and not rely on these. I'm not going to really fault the Secret Service guys on the ground. For the most part, they did what they're supposed to do. But whoever the advance team was that came in and planned this event, whoever the managers were that planned this event and decided what the perimeters were, what the buildings were, who was going to be where, These people need to be replaced or fired or answer some serious questions about their abilities to plan for an event. They have one job to do. And somehow a 20-year-old retard outsmarted them.
Thanks for listening to the Behind the Line podcast. For more, visit behindthelinepodcast.com, leftcoastnews.net, or shtf.net. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts, and anywhere else podcasts are found. Please subscribe, like, and share to get our content out there. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, Truth Social, Gab, Telegram, Substack, Brighteon, Rumble, the Newscaster Studio, and all other forms of social media. Thanks for listening.